Occupational licensing is big business for states and municipalities. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, almost 25% of all U.S. workers employed in 2015 held a license in order to do their job. In retrospect, only 5% of workers in the 1950s had to hold a license. These licenses can be for anything from practicing medicine to walking dogs and can be helpful in protecting public health and safety. However, since occupational licenses are issued by the states, when a person moves, they may not find themselves having to pay for licensing and training in another state again in order to work in their trained profession. In addition, training hours can seem a bit off. When you look closer, it takes longer in most states to be licensed to cut hair than to be an emergency medical technician. And sometimes occupational licensing can come afoul of people just trying to do some good. Take the case of J.C. Montestoca of Arizona, who was investigated and ultimately taken to court by the Arizona State Board of Cosmetology for giving free haircuts to homeless vets without a license. J.C., a cosmetology student in Tucson, used his heart for helping the less fortunate with the skills he was learning at school to give a hand at Bravo Base, a Tucson area spot that provides a safe place for the chronically homeless while operating multiple missions as a part of a veteran suicide prevention program. JC was facing the possibility that he would not only get a fine, but could have been banned from getting a license to cut hair entirely. But the sky opened, and irrational humanity came to the rescue, along with Arizona Governor Doug Ducey, who heard of JC's work and stepped in, urging the passage of a bill to make licensing easier and allow for student volunteer work. And joining us today from Tucson to tell his story is J.C. Montestoca. Welcome, J.C. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It's a great pleasure to have you on. And what I want to first ask you, before we get into all the bureaucratic craziness, what inspired you to, as you're just a hairdresser, you got the license, you're doing anything. What inspired you to say, you know what, I'm gonna cut the hair of the homeless. I'm gonna give my time and try to help these people who need my help.
My mother passed away, unfortunately, of cancer a couple years ago. And my mom loved her hair being styled and curled. And so when my mom lost her hair to cancer, that made me realize that I need to help other people, not only with cancer, but people that are in need. My mom always taught me to give back to other people and to reach out to those in need. So my mom.
That's beautiful. What was what brought you into cosmetology? And then how did you end up finding the veterans? How did you end up working with that group specifically?
There's a large network here of community activists, and when they heard about my story and it reaching the governor of Arizona, they were delighted to bring me on and have me as a barber and a community advocate.
Oh, wow.
It's so amazing.
Well, I gotta ask, look, was it, when did you first realize that this kind of bureaucracy was coming down? Like, I mean, you're licensed to practice elsewhere, you're here, you're cutting some homeless people's hair, and then, like, someone ratted on you? Like, how did they figure out that you were even doing this?
Yeah, unfortunately, word does get around in a small town, and so that word did get around to somebody who didn't like the idea of altruism and helping out the community. So that was how the Arizona Board of Cosmetology found out. Initially, from me being a student, I thought it was okay, and I've seen many students do homeless haircuts for those in need. But unfortunately, yes, somebody did put a rat on me.
Wow.
That's hard. I mean, how stressful is that here's your passion for your work and your career, you're taking that passion to the streets, a passion for helping people. How stressful is that when suddenly the cosmetology cops are telling you that this could ruin your whole career? Like, how stressful is that, and how did you deal with that?
It was pretty heartbreaking to know that somebody in my own community would do that. But I rose above it. I prayed, and I still kept doing it. And thankfully, I'm able to still do it. But it was really frightening and really scary to know that I might not be able to get a license or might not be able to work, because in essence, that's what I want to do is work.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting because you got this attention from, you know, probably the biggest politician in the land over where you're at. And Governor Doug Ducey really connected with your story, which I think, you know, many U.S. citizens and Americans can identify with. He stated that, quote, "The fact that one of our own citizens is volunteering his time and talents in an effort to help those who need it is exactly the kind of citizenship we should be encouraging and celebrating. But instead, Mr. Montes de Oca finds the heavy hand of government working against him," is what happened to you. Were you surprised by the governor's interest in your case and how it connected to the larger issues involving occupational licensing?
Definitely. When they told me that the governor had interceded on my behalf, I was ecstatic. I was so happy that he came to my aid. I never in a million years thought that a Republican governor would go to bat for me, but I'm really grateful that he did. I got the chance to meet Governor Doug Ducey at his State of the State address a couple weeks ago, and he's a really great individual, and I'm really happy that he stood up for the homeless and for veterans.
Yeah, it is. And what now? Once you've kind of been victim of this, you know, issue with this occupational bureaucracy and all that, you know, were you aware then of like other people who had these issues, and other people said, yeah, I was, you know, trying to get a license over here, and then they wouldn't let me, and it kind of prevented me from work. Like, what would have been the bad side if the governor hadn't stepped in and no one came into your aid? I mean, would you have been allowed to continue your profession, or would you have had to give it up?
I would have, in essence, been fined for providing charity on the streets, and I may have been barred from the profession indefinitely, which is really, really messed up.
Would that affect you in states outside of that one? Like but you never would have been able to do any kind of cosmetology or hair cutting or anything like that, like if you then went to a different state too?
I'm not sure about a different state, but here in Arizona, it's actually legal to cut your own kid's hair. We found out through an investigation on the Arizona State Board of Cosmetology itself that it's against the law to cut your child's hair or your husband's hair or your wife's hair if you don't have a license, which can take up to a year of training and up to $20,000 to get.
Yeah, it's very expensive, and I find that that's sort of the interesting thing, that this is that part where, you know, it's a Republican governor, and I think he saw that part where we see those moments that we can all agree on and we all understand, is that people in occupational licensing situations, hairdressers and that, as you said, it's very expensive. And sometimes, you know, when you're talking about low and middle class families, they don't have the money to go through all that training. And then something like this can really throw everything off. How did this experience change you, and how do you think it'll affect you moving forward as a hairdresser, as a philanthropist? How do you think that'll sort of shape your world now?
Since the Arizona governor and the local community had reached out, what has happened now is not only is it okay to give out haircuts as a student, actually as we speak, legislation is being introduced into the House of Representatives and to the governor's office, which allows students now to provide charity outside of a licensed salon or as a student. And that's just something that I wanted to get across, and it's something that I'm really proud of, that they are doing that. So the whole issue was me giving out haircuts as a student, and I'm just really glad that other students now have reached out to me and want to do this in our community, and I'm just really, really grateful for all the support from the community and from the government. I
got to say that's fantastic news now that there's legislation being pushed forward, and that's one of those kind of reminders that, you know, us as citizens can step up and make a change, even in government. I know it sounds impossible sometimes, but we can actually do that. What advice, as someone who's now lived through this and is now, you know, potentially seeing, you know, laws change because of your actions, what advice do you have for people who come up against these kind of barriers to their dreams and also in barriers to their dream of helping others? What's the best advice you give to them?
Well, my best advice to give to other people is to never stop fighting for what you believe in. It doesn't matter where you're from, how much money you have, or what kind of clothes you have. We're all the same. And I just believe in that beauty lives in everything and everyone, and inspiring others to help other people and to give back to their community in any way possible is what I vouch for and what I represent. Military families and our veterans are really strongly on my heart, and the people of Arizona and the people of this country. I'm just really grateful for the support, and any students out there that would be interested in helping out or going on ops or going on missions and helping others, let me know.
Hey, man, hey, great work out there, and thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story, because I think it's important. Take care of yourself,
Much
man.
love to you.
I'm a big fan. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.